So here we are. It's my week this week to bring a job post to the table. And this job post that I found, I find really interesting. It's really interesting for me because the role and the organization fits into startups and scale ups and entrepreneurships. So this organization, they exist to help give a bit of a grassroots network and kind of a scaffolding for new companies that are in the CPG space, consumer packaged goods. And there's a lot of companies, startup companies in this industry association that are in food and beverage. And to me, that's really cool. It's like we're innovating in food and beverage, and there's this support network around it to help these companies grow. Because we all know there's tons of competition in CPG, food and beverage. Like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo pretty much own the entire planet when it comes to food and beverage, right? So the fact that this organization exists feels meaningful. I really kind of dig it. So that's why I'm super excited to get into it.
Amazing. That sounds very interesting. And I think if you've been listening for a while, you know this, but I think it's important to remind everyone that I have not seen this job posting whatsoever. We alternate. And so Paul's hosting, he chose the job posting. This is like absolutely new information, which I think is always the best way to approach it and to give our true like gut reaction. That's part of the reason why we do it to the job postings. And when you're excited about the one that you're bringing in and what the company is trying to do, like, yeah, it just makes it all that much better. So really looking forward to this one.
Plus, when we don't know what the other person is bringing to the table, it gives us each a lot more opportunity to punk the other person, which I feel like I enjoy more than you do. But you can start enjoying it any day of the week. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, good point.
All right. So this is the profile for the company. We'll start with the roasty profile as usual. The job title: senior manager, partner success. The report to title: head of partnerships. The company size: 2 to 10 employees.
Oh.
The industry, yeah, it's a small company. That's part of why I found this really interesting. The industry is industry associations. What do? They build and support the ecosystem behind new and emerging consumer packaged goods brands. The organization provides partnership, networking, training, and development opportunities for startups in this space. Their head office location: New York, New York. The job location is remote anywhere in the US. The geographical operating area is North America, and they have kind of a Canada Slack channel, so they're active up here too. The job type is full-time, permanent. Now, to get into it, I'm going to read out the company's about statement, from in their own words, what they're all about, give everybody a little bit of context on who these folks are. And we don't name and shame on this show. So you are going to hear me say the word company a lot instead of the name of the organization, partly because Jen and I don't have lawyers, and partly because the show's not about naming and shaming, even if we do get really critical about some of the things that we come across. So, company is the world's largest community for entrepreneurs in CPG, consumer packaged goods, with a 35,000 member Slack community and total media reach of 200,000 plus people. We're proud to partner with the leading service providers across the CPG ecosystem to help them engage our community through digital media and in-person event activations. That's how they describe themselves. Now, in going through the job description, there were some things that stood out to me that I kind of want to bring up and get your perspective on them, Jen, because they're kind of interesting. So we know that this company is, the organization, 2 to 10 people, small organization. The first thing that stood out to me is they say in their kind of preamble to the role, this is a player coach role. You will act as a trusted advisor to partners externally and lead a small partner success team internally. 2 to 10 people total in this company. Does that kind of make you think anything? Partner success for me is like, if there are 2 to 10 people in this organization and you're leading a dedicated partner success team, are there people doing other things, or is this it? That's the first thing that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind with me is that I still don't understand what this company is doing. Like
Mm,
I don't understand like that about us, about the company description to me wasn't very clear. I don't get it. What are they doing? And I think if I knew more about that, like if you could say this is an outcome of our company, of what our company does, then I think I would be better able to answer that. Because yeah, a company of 2 to 10 employees, it almost makes me wonder if they're like building towards something. Um, because how they're already reporting to the head of partnerships, is that right?
yeah,
And then they have their own team, but it's only 2 to 10 people. And when we, and like that's a category that LinkedIn, like you have to select a category from a drop down, right? um that could be 2 people. It could be 10 people. So it's really hard in that small category. It's really hard to understand how that works.
I would love to see an org structure
Yeah.
for this industry association and see what the different like titles are and how it's all structured and shaped. Unfortunately, doesn't give that to us, but I've definitely got some questions at this point. And you're right that that description didn't really do them justice. So I have a little bit of the burden of knowledge going on because I'm actually a member of this organization, and I am a part of their Slack channel. So I know what they're all about. But you're right that just from that reading of it, that few sentences, an outsider has no idea what they're all about, what they're doing. Let's carry on though. Going into the primary responsibilities, that's the section in the job ad. And maybe before we do that, here are the sections for the job ad. This is loosely how it's structured. There's a section called primary responsibilities. There's a section called campaign and event execution. There's a section called retention, renewals, and expansion. There's a section called team leadership and systems. There's a section called ideal candidate profile.
Mm.
There's a section called preferred qualifications. And then at the very end of the job ad, there was a link that you click to start the process, fill things out. On that page, they actually have a really detailed questionnaire that you fill out with your application. And it's just a Google form. So it's not a part of an ATS or anything like that. But it's lengthy. It's lengthy. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it is there. And that was something that stood out for me as a little bit different from what you normally see in the recruiting process.
I already have so many questions about that, but we'll get to it when we get to it, because I do find that really interesting, how they set that up, even just like the mechanics of it, because it was on LinkedIn and then you click the apply and it takes you to the Google form. You don't have to tell me now. We'll talk about it. We'll get there.
That is basically what it is. Yeah.
Interesting. Didn't know you
So
could do
in the
that.
yeah, it was kind of cool how they did it. I was impressed when I went through like their flow. In the primary responsibilities section, a couple of things stood out for me. So 2 bullet points here. The first is act as the primary point of contact for partners, owning day-to-day communication, issue resolution, and overall experience. And the other bullet point that stood out for me is operate resourcefully in a fast-moving environment, making thoughtful execution trade-offs to balance partner goals, quality standards, and internal capacity. So those are kind of part of your primary responsibilities. And for a little bit more context, there's a call out in the job ad that says partner ownership and relationship management. So really that's kind of your job. Your job is going to be own partnership relationships, manage them and grow them over time. Now, in isolation, those 2 bullet points, they don't tell us a whole lot. But as I get into the other things that stood out a bit for me, I think that the picture is going to become a little bit clearer of what this is all about.
Can I
So
ask a
in
question
yeah,
though?
yeah, yeah.
Who are their partners? Is it the packaged goods companies?
So that's a great question. So their members are people who are working in CPG companies, but they're partners, and they don't actually spell this out in the job ad. Their partners, though, are organizations that would be service providers to those companies. So think like, I'm a CPG company and I'm going to bring in somebody who has a co-packing plant to do a webinar with us that the members then come to. And then that partner would be charged a fee to participate in that. So the membership in the community is actually free. You don't have to pay to become a member as long as you work for a CPG firm. But the partners are charged fees. So they're serving the members who are free, but they're making money from the partnerships.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Interesting. I'm thinking about other models. We talked about something kind of similar before offline. So I think if you recall, that's ringing a bell to me anyway. I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast, but yeah, this makes a little bit more sense to me now. It makes me feel like an old, like, get off my lawn man, because I'm like, wow, you can really make a business out of anything these days, So that's how this feels to me right now, because it feels very vague and very like like, what is that elevator pitch, right? Like, what does your company do? Just tell me what you do. Like, if I told my mom I was going to work for a company like this, she would be like, is this a real company? Like, that's how it feels right now to me. So yeah.
It's that's a really interesting perspective. It's a really interesting perspective because on the face of it, doesn't look like there's a lot here. Definitely doesn't look like there's a lot that's defensible. If you think about an entrepreneurial organization, you're building a business, you're competing in the market against other businesses. There's nothing about this model that is super defensible. Like, what prevents someone else from copying you and doing a better job at it?
Yeah.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Interesting.
In the next section, campaign and event execution. So that heading kind of stands out a little bit to me as well. You're a partnership manager, but a part of your job responsibilities are marketing campaigns and execution, right? That's kind of interesting to me. I'm going to read out all of the points. Lead execution of partner campaigns across multiple activations, stakeholders, and timelines. Manage partner-related event logistics, assets, and on-site execution as required. Ensure all partner activations are delivered on time, accurately, and at a consistently high standard. So here we're kind of building a story where you're in charge of managing relationships with partners, the people who are funding the company, basically, through those fees. You're also essentially leading the execution of events, activations, pop-ups, whatever else it might be. Like, you're kind of the person who is running that show. So we can see how these two things are kind of coming to coalesce together a little bit. Does anything kind of come to mind at this point? Or do you want me to keep going and read more?
No, just like my initial thoughts are that, like, this is the kind of role where you're going to wear many hats. So you're going to do a little bit of everything. And it also, I think the only question that's popping into my head right now is, what are the people reporting to you going to be doing? That's kind of the question that I have, but no, absolutely, go on.
Yeah, I had that question too when I first read through this. And the thing that came to mind for me was, okay, the people who are reporting to you, this small partnership team, do they exist yet?
Yeah,
I'm not sure that they do.
This is what I said at the top of this. Like, do you actually have any direct reports yet, or are you building towards something? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And with that 2 to 10 number of employees thing, you can start to see this take shape where it's like, oh, okay, so this partnership team probably doesn't exist yet. You've got to build towards it. So it almost suggests that you're going to come in, you're going to be the only person doing this. You've got to grow the revenue, the book of business, to be able to justify hiring people under you. And once you do that, hire people. It almost feels like that.
Yeah, I wanted to be like, ooh, I think that it's one person in this company hiring their first hire. This is what it sounds like to me. It's one person, like the founder, CEO, right, founder, and they've been doing everything on their own. And they're like, okay, I need to hire someone. And sometimes you inflate it to make it sound a lot bigger than it is. Like I remember I worked for a company and the website said like New York and like all these hubs that it implied that we had offices there when really it's like no, we have one employee who works there, like in that state or that province or whatever. And so it kind of feels like that, and you do it because it makes you sound way more important than you are. But to me it feels like maybe this is a one person show, this is their first role, or it's like the senior, but the
Mm.
head of partnerships or whatever that one person is. And then they need to take a bunch of stuff off their plate, and then if this person is successful, like you said, then they can start building that team. Because again, you 2 to 10 employees, that could even be one, because I don't know if there's a 0 to 1 drop down option. So that's kind of what it reads
Maybe,
like to me.
maybe the head of partnerships is the founder.
Yeah, this is what it seems like, right? And they are doing this because they were a networked person and they saw a need for this in the market, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing this. Did it say by any chance when this company was established? Do we have a?
No,
Mhm.
no, it didn't. It didn't. If I had to guess though, I would say during COVID. And that's completely anecdotal, just based on kind of my own experiences being a part of some of these events, virtual events anyway.
Okay, cool.
In the next section, retention, renewals, and expansion, a few points in here that I wanted to kind of highlight. The first one is ensure partners see clear ROI from their campaigns and activations and understand how the company drives value for their business. Next point is identify opportunities to deepen partnerships through additional activations, formats, or programs based on partner goals and performance. And then the last point that stood out for me is stay ahead of renewal timelines by maintaining strong relationships, clear performance narratives, and proactive communication. Starting to sound a little bit like a sales role, is it not?
It's definitely a sales role, account manager, sales role. Yeah, kind of tapping into their own potentially existing network. But yeah, it definitely feels, again, this is just reinforcing our assumption that this is like a wear many hats type of role.
The last 5, 6 points that I wanted to kind of surface for the conversation is in the ideal candidate profile section. So one of the points says you're comfortable leading renewal and upsell conversations with partners, including scoping, positioning, and closing expanded partnerships. Salesy.
Sales.
Strong operator mindset with the ability to make sound judgment calls, manage ambiguity, and keep moving. Not sales, definitely operations. Commercially minded with a strong understanding of how execution quality, responsiveness, and trust drive renewals and long-term partnerships. Next point is comfortable using tools such as Notion, Eventbrite, Canva, HubSpot, and other project management platforms. And then the last point that stood out was ability to travel 20 to 30% of the time annually, with heavier travel during major industry event seasons. And then there's some other things that when we break for the intermission and you read the job ad in its entirety, there are some other things in there that'll kind of stand out to you. But those are the ones that I kind of wanted to bring together because we're seeing a bit of a narrative here where, and I think it's very on point where you said this is probably your first hire. To me, this is starting to read a little bit like this might actually be their first hire, and they're trying to hire themselves.
Like, what do you mean? Tell me more about that. Like a duplication of themselves?
Yeah, because this you think about the context, right? Like if this is an organization that's one person, they're doing everything. And maybe they've got like a virtual assistant, maybe they've got like some kind of freelance contractor support around them. They probably do. But there's really only one person in the organization. So they are doing everything. And they've obviously grown it to a point where it's worked and they have what they see as a viable business. So now they're like, okay, I got this from 0 to 1. So another me can help get it from 1 to 100. And you see throughout this job ad, like They're looking for someone who can do business development, which is really what partnerships is, right? It's business development. It's long-term relationship building and management. They're looking for someone who is also doing events. So they're doing pop-ups, they're doing trade shows, they're doing these activations. They're also looking for someone who's doing sales. They specifically call out upselling. They're also looking for someone who can use a web browser, which is what you need to be able to do to use Notion, Eventbrite, Canva, HubSpot, and other PM platforms. It's a more modern take on like, can you use Office? But it's
Yeah.
still the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course you can, or you can learn it. Like, don't be silly. But all in, like this really to me, you think about those different capabilities and competencies. A one-person company would absolutely, they would have those to be successful. And your first logical thought is like, I just need to clone myself.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, I think we're both right. I think it's a one person team. I think they're trying to clone themselves so that they can, like, they feel like they can scale that way. But I think an important reminder for everyone listening is that you do not scale successfully by duplicating yourself. That's
Nope.
actually like the worst thing that you can do. And so, yeah, I think that's just important. I think some folks have figured that out, some don't, and they just think if there were two of me, think how much more I could do, and that's just not what you're trying to do. It's not strategic whatsoever. Curious to like, and I just a lot of what we discuss, there are a lot of assumptions that we make because we take the time to deep dive into these. We maybe try to do a little bit of searching or research in the background. But the hardest part is not knowing. The hardest part is not knowing if we're right. But I feel like we are, and I think we've been doing this for long enough now, like not just the podcast, but our own experience, that I think that we're pretty bang on most of the time. I do they mention there are two questions I have. Do they
Mm.
mention the need for a vehicle or heavy lifting or moving things, being able to stand for long? Is there anything about the physical requirements or having a car? No.
They don't. They don't actually. And given that there is a whole lot of travel, that kind of surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, me
Like,
too. Me too. And I worry for people who don't make that distinction that they will go down. Like the candidate who's into this job and doesn't have a car ain't going to tell you that, right? They're going to wait until there's an offer on the table. And the hiring manager isn't thinking like, oh shit, I need to make sure that they have a way to like get to these events and stuff like that. Otherwise I'm
mm,
picking them up and we're carpooling everywhere. And again, that's where you go back to like, well, you're not really like, you don't really want to duplicate yourself because like, are you both going to the like that kind of thing? So it is really important to make that like if that is a requirement of the job, if they're doing 20 to 30% travel, like that needs to be a screening question in their questionnaire that they have linked. And if it's not, then
yeah.
you will be surprised how many people will apply for a job and seem like a really great candidate who don't have like some fundamental requirement that you forgot to address right from the get-go for this job. So that was one of my questions.
Yeah. Or even it's maybe it's not necessarily, and I would argue actually that it's probably not necessarily you need to have a car, but more so you need to have a license. Because I can see maybe getting by with 20
Yeah.
to 30% travel, especially being home based in New York City, where you can fly to where you're going. But you're gonna need to be able to drive. Like, do you think that like Omaha, Nebraska has fantastic public transit? It does not. You're gonna have to rent a car.
But then I think about like those banners that you pull down and like all the equipment that you have to bring with you when you're going to these kinds of events, like trade
Yeah,
shows or whatever. And like,
the lifting thing for sure.
right. So that kind of, so that was one thing. The other, you didn't touch on this, but I think it might shed a little bit of light when we talk about like, you'll have a team reporting to you or whatever. Um, the section that you said is called team leadership and like system something.
Hmm.
What was under there for team leadership?
Hmm. So none of these really stood out to me as kind of worthy of kind of roasting. But basically, the things that are in this section are you'll lead and mentor a small team with a focus on kind of showing them how to be impactful. when it comes to the partner experience. So
Mm.
basically, they're saying like you're going to have to build a business development team and mentor them over time, which to me suggests like the expectation is you're going to hire young and inexperienced. It also talks a little bit about remaining directly involved in work with the partners on campaigns. So again, like this kind of says like, hey, you're going to have a team around you that's not as experienced. So even though you're training them and leading them and whatnot, you're still going to have to be kind of elbows up in the actual work for your clients. And it talks a little bit too about building and refining systems, templates, and workflows. So you're putting in place kind of the operational framework for your team, which kind of goes along with it, right?
Yeah, but it sounds like potentially for the organization as well. So again, going back to like sales, BD, operations, like it is that little bit of everything. Okay, that did
Yeah.
clarify some for me, but not really. So
And
okay.
I think to your point, that also lends a little bit of weight to the fact that this is all net new, and it doesn't explicitly say in the job post that that this role is net new, and it doesn't explicitly say that the team underneath this role is net new. But I think we can kind of conclude that that's what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here we are at, I would say, probably my favorite part of the show, the part of the show where, geez, Jen gets to guess the salary. Uh, yeah, you get to guess the salary. Now, this is New York City. Salary is going to be in USD, 2 to 10 people, small organization, and basically an industry organization. Like it's not a nonprofit, it's a for profit, but it's kind of in that same vein. This is a senior level role, at least it's titled as a senior level role. What do you think this is worth?
I couldn't even tell you. Is it listed as an annual salary or hourly?
It is listed as annual.
Wow. I mean, kudos to this person. We
Mm-hmm.
are assuming is one person to build this out and to get it to a point where they can pay someone an annual salary. It's interesting because you said like considering this is a senior manager role. Is it? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. It's an inflated title. They're giving senior, hoping to try to catch, like increase that candidate pool. Paul, we know I hate this so much. Why do I hate it? I think I hate it because it's so embarrassing. Like,
I think I like it so much because you hate it so much. I really think that's what's going on.
I hate it so much. I don't know, 65. That's my guess. You think I would higher? I'm like, you think it's higher. It's you're looking at it right there. Um, 80, 85.
You're close. You're close. So the range that they posted, and this is in US dollars, is 90,000 to 115,000 based on
No, we
experience.
can't afford it.
Well,
You
yeah,
can't afford that.
I, that this is something that raises some question marks for me. Like, if they're going to pay that much of a salary for this role with this small of an organization, they've either uncovered phenomenal leverage points or this partnership model is bringing in like a good chunk of change and they've realized they're onto something. Now, on top of the salary range, they're also saying that a part of the comp package is a performance-based bonus. No more
That was
details than
my
that.
next question. I was like, is that salary including a performance based bonus? Or
The
is
way
it
it's the way
based?
it's written, I don't think so. I think the performance bonus is on top of the salary range just based on the way it's written. But you could be right.
Right? Like I can see it fitting that range if they are including what they estimate to be bonuses in there. But as a base salary, I'm sorry. I don't think you can afford it and you need to rethink that. But
Now
yes, you can.
here's another thing. It also says that they include medical, dental, and vision benefits. And in the
Wow.
US, that is not cheap.
That is not cheap. And if you're a small company, it's really hard to get
Mm-hmm.
good packages because they want like the bigger the company, the better the packages. So this is a huge investment. into this. And that's why I asked about how long they've been doing this for, because if they've been doing it for a while and they've been successful, that's great. But it makes me think a little bit about, like when you watch in Canada, it's Dragon's Den, in the US, it's Shark's Tank or whatever.
Yeah, Shark Tank.
When,
Yeah.
yeah, when the person's in there and they're like, I've been doing this for like 25 years and I've invested, $3 million of my own money. And you're just like, it's no, you can't afford that. Stop, honey, no. And this is how I feel. I'm like, why don't you just make it a little bit of a more junior role and pay it a little bit lower? Because I worry for this company or this person, again, making up a whole narrative in my head about who this person is. And maybe there's no need to worry, but I am flabbergasted at the salary.
It is, I was really surprised that it is what it was, because that's a pretty fair range for what I'm seeing in this job description. And the fact that it's like 2 to 10 employees and it's an industry association, I was shocked that they were paying like fairly. Now, it
Yeah.
might be a 2,000 hour a week job, so maybe it isn't that great based on the amount of time that you'll have to put into it. But on paper, it doesn't look too shabby.
They're betting on this person. Like it sounds like
They are.
they are betting on this person and willing to put their money where their mouth is. Is that the saying?
Mm.
So it sounds like that. I'm happy and impressed. But I think that when we go back to a lot of times people trying to duplicate, clone themselves to scale their company, then I get concerned. I go back to being concerned about them and whether or not this is the right move.
Yeah. People at home who are thinking of starting a business or who are starting to scale their business, don't clone yourself and count on that for success, because it amplifies not only the good things, the qualities that you have that have really helped you be successful, it amplifies the bad things and the gaps too. And you have them. We all have them. When those gaps get amplified, it creates more risk inside the organization. So look for people who balance out what you're good at, not people who add to what you're good at.
This is it. You're already good at it. That's fine. Like phenomenal, but really identify, be honest with yourself. What are my gaps? Where have I struggled? Where have I failed? What do I find really hard? Like
Mm.
what drains my battery? And then go find someone who yeah, fills all of those gaps. And then you're going to start to see, and then when they start hiring their team, you want to make sure that they're doing the same thing. They're looking to hire people who, yeah, fill their own gaps and supplement what it is that they don't bring to the table. Like that's how you scale, and that's how you don't just have a whole bunch of like bros doing the same thing, right? I picture in my head like that room of like monkeys smoking cigarettes and they all have a typewriter and it's like they're all just doing the same thing over and over again. Don't do that. Like expand, diversify, and grow and scale successfully.
Mm. Fantastic segue for us to go into our intermission. We're going to take a short break. Jen and I will both read through the job ad verbatim, and we'll come back shortly with the final scores and some advice and wrap ups. Stay tuned. Okay, folks, we are back. Jen has had an opportunity to read through the job ad, and I gave it a little skim through myself. Time to come up with the scores. So, Jen, you've read through this. What do you think this job is scored at? What would you score it as from the perspective of the job ad itself? How was it written? How was it structured? Was it effective in communicating? How would you score that part of it?
Yeah, I think it was effective in communicating. I'm just like there are certain parts that were redundant. Like they have an ideal candidate profile, but then they have preferred qualifications, and I find that they're like repeating themselves a few times there. So they could have there's some trimming and stuff that they could do. Um, it's The layout as well is interesting to me under primary responsibilities. And then they have these other categories, but I don't know if those should have just been under. Are they meant to be under primary responsibilities? Are they a different kind of like part of the job? So it's a little bit um it could have been structured a little bit better, but it is by no means the worst that I have seen. It has a reporting structure. It doesn't mention accommodations or use of AI or anything like that, but they do post the salary. And so, yeah, definitely not the worst I've seen, just a couple of little changes here and there in terms of how they've structured it and some of the wording. So I would say to me, it's probably like, I don't know, 6.5. I'd say 7. That's
Okay.
for the job posting itself.
Yeah. How about the role design? Thinking about the role, how it was structured, the responsibilities, the reasonableness of it, the sustainability of it. How would you score that out of 10?
Yeah, that I think that the biggest issue that we've both touched on is that it seems like it's a replication of someone's existing skill set. Um, we don't know much about that team that they might have. How many people are there? And it is a little bit all over the place. Like they call it a senior manager partner success, but it seems like it's not quite that. That doesn't seem to be quite the appropriate title. I don't know what would be, but it's a mixture of sales. I almost wish that they did call it just a sales, like call it for what it is, and it just actually really hone in and focus on it being a sales role. And yeah, I don't know, just keep it for what it is, because that's what it reads like. But it's got operations, it's got BD, so it's got all sorts of stuff in there. And I don't know, out of 10, what would I rate this? Maybe like a 5-ish. I want this person, whoever runs this company, to succeed and do well. And I think that they're trying to do right by this role. So they have, like, I don't know, I care for them. I don't know who they are, but I care for them. But yeah, that would be the rating, I guess, like a 5 or so, because I don't know that that's going to work out for them if they're gonna do it this way, gonna hire this way. So I think that they could have gone in a different direction and probably would be more successful.
Yeah, I had some similar thoughts. So on the job ad itself, the structure of it and whatnot, I'd give it an 8. And probably being a little bit generous, you're right. There was some duplication, like the difference between the ideal candidate qualifications and the preferred qualifications. Eh, that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like maybe they were trying to say with preferred qualifications, this is the minimum that we will accept. If that's the case, we should have said
Yeah.
it. Like you could have been very honest in that part of the job ad and said, you know, nothing against you, but don't apply unless you can demonstrate A, B, and C. I would have given them more credit for that rather than this duplication. But other than that, I thought it was really well written and structured. Like there were no typos, there was no goofy stuff. Like it seemed to me that whoever wrote this ad sat down and wrote it and gave it some thought and some consideration in how they wrote the job ad itself. So like that it worked for me. Role design though, not as much not
Yeah.
as much. The role design is logical um, through the framework of you are now going from 1 to 100. Like you've gone from 0 to 1. You've proven that this is a thing, and you've kind of found traction. So your logical conclusion is like, all right, let's hire somebody who is senior and will fill in underneath them. Like a lot of founders who are scaling, they think that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. That can work, but the way that this role is structured is pretty much a magnet for burnout. You're saying that you're going to be traveling around the country 20 to 30% of your time, but you're also in charge of maintaining relationships with your partner network, and you're also in charge of eventually building mentoring and kind of scaling a team, but that team is never really going to fully own the work as it's written here. You're still going to be hands-on in it. So, how much lift is that going to give you? Oh, and also, by the way, you're setting up the events. You're making sure that everything at the events are being set up and torn down and everything. Oh, and also you're managing these marketing partnership campaigns, which are virtual. So, like, all these things are being squished together in ways that they kind of make sense in your mind. But the reality is that this person is not going to be able to really excel at any of those areas. They might be able to be like 30 or 40% effective, maybe less in all of them, some of the time, not all the time. So this person, like, big job, probably going to burn out. It's not going to be sustainable. One of two things will happen. Either this role will get modified within like 6 months to be something else, and some of this stuff will get shifted on to other people, or they'll hire to kind of do other stuff, or this person will just flame out and leave. I would give the role design 5.5, 6 out of 10. So for me, job ad 8, role design 6.
Yeah, you're right. And you mentioned something that I'm kind of suspicious of. I wonder if this person, this one person show that we are making a lot of assumptions here, if they need a break. I wonder if they want to take a little bit of a step back. I wonder if they want to go on vacations every once in a while and they haven't been able to. That's what I'm thinking. And that could be why they are willing to pay so high for this role, that because they themselves are going to take a bit of a step back, they can reduce their own salary and give some of it to this person. Like that's kind of what it feels like for me a little bit as well. So again, we've made up this whole story about this organization. But I'm curious, would you, if you had kind of the skill set, the experience for this, would you apply for this role?
Great question. I think that if I was eligible to work for this company, because it's US only, so obviously I wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to.
like the
If I
assumption is
was,
that you're eligible. Yeah.
yeah, if I was eligible, I would give it serious thought. Um, I would give it serious thought. Sales, not really my bag. Relationship management, yep. Business development, yep, absolutely. Operational stuff, yep. Um, but I reading through this job ad, like the things that they want to fit together, they don't really fit together all that well in my mind. So I would be asking kind of some of these same questions and being like, am I going to be successful in this job? And for folks at home who are looking for jobs right now and reading through job ads, that's a pretty good exercise to go through yourself when you're reading these job ads. Like, you read through the job ad and think about it with what you know
Mm.
from that job ad and say, will I be successful in this job? Why or why not? Like, what are the kind of deficiencies? What are the questions that come up here? And that mental exercise can actually generate really intelligent questions for you to use in the interview. And we know that hiring managers, uh, when you ask good questions, they're impressed. Like, you stand out far more than candidates who don't ask questions at all or have nothing to say. So it can be a useful exercise. To answer your question, though, I don't know if I'd apply for this or not.
Yeah.
I'd be torn because the mission of this organization aligns with my values, but I think that I would drive myself a little bit crazy trying to do absolutely everything, because that's my personality. Uh, and it's not going to work in a
Yeah.
structure like this.
I think that's such a good point. I think that there's nothing indicating in the job posting that there are any guardrails in place to prevent you from doing everything. So you would end up doing everything. It's just designed that way. I think that's why we both rated it so low for job design. So yeah. Well, that was a
Yeah. Well, folks, that is another job post roasted. Really interesting one. Join us again next week when we are back roasting a brand new job. And Jen will be leading this one. I can't wait personally.
see you then.